anywhere for the next 26 minutes because we have a very important story now, and that is really some of the statistics and the worries that I have about veterans suffering in silence for up to 14 years. This is Combat Stress, very, very good charity, believes widespread misunderstanding of post-traumatic stress disorder is driving the delay. Half of British people wrongly believing violence is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder, and there are damaging myths stopping people seeking help. Now, you and I both know that there are loads of veterans and their families who watch and listen to my programmes, and I'm delighted that they do so. We've talked an awful lot about things like the legacy bill and prosecuting soldiers, funding for the armed services, but when people leave or they serve us in wars abroad and they get post-traumatic stress disorder, we'll talk to someone who has had PTSD in just a second, but Chloe Walsh is the Chief Executive of Combat Stress, and I know that PTSD Awareness Day is tomorrow, and more than half of people incorrectly believing violence is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. Chloe, why is that, do you think?
So post-traumatic stress disorder in military veterans often comes from violence, so from fighting and from being in very traumatic situations within battlefields. But for veterans after service, it's the last thing that many of them want to be involved in, and in fact, the violence is often a triggering factor for them, so they want to avoid violence. Anger can be a symptom of PTSD, but it is one that veterans very much seek to keep control of. And at Combat Stress, we are treating veterans with PTSD and have very strong recovery rates. So around 70% of veterans who complete our treatment recover from PTSD and go on to live lives without the debilitating symptoms that it brings.
What about non-combat military roles? There are lots of people who are there supporting our brave men and women who defend the country.
This is very true, and this is something that not all of us have in our minds, that PTSD is beyond the frontline roles. It can affect people who've worked in air traffic control, affect people who have worked on ships, affect medics, engineers. There are all sorts of roles who are in the battlefield or supporting the battlefield, and they go on to develop PTSD the same rate really as people in fighting roles.
So what is Combat Stress doing about it? What would you like people to know about your charity?
So we want people to be aware that PTSD can present differently to some of the stereotypes that most people understand. So it's those other groups that can be affected, but also I think a lot of people understand that PTSD can cause flashbacks and nightmares, but actually there are some ways in which people who suffer from PTSD experience the condition that aren't about that sort of symptom. There are people who experience hypervigilance, anxiety, difficulty sleeping. So there are a whole host of symptoms. So if you know somebody who served in the armed forces and you feel that they may be suffering with their mental health, it would be great to come forward for support. And the aim of that, obviously, is to try to reduce the number of years that people suffer for.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Chloe there. Chloe Walsh is the Chief Executive of Combat Stress. I want to speak to Debi Heath French, who's the founder of Forces Equine, itself a great charity that helps so many people in the veterans community and indeed serving officers. Debi, I know you yourself have had PTSD. Tell us about that.
So I got PTSD, like I said to you before, not in service, through the death of my son. But my brother-in-law, he had PTSD because he was a sniper in the British Army. He did back-to-back tours. It really affected him. But one thing I do know from when I was serving, when I lost my son, it was always warfare, not welfare. And it takes a lot for somebody, whether you're female or male, to actually go up to your chain of command, whether it be your staff sergeant or your OC or whoever, and say, I'm not right, because it shows weakness. And I think that takes a lot of courage to do. And people try and park it, or they did when I was in. You've got to think, so we celebrated my gang 2 days ago. We would have done 30 years in the army 2 days ago. So I don't know if it's changed now, but my husband's still serving. I don't really talk to him about it and say, how has it changed? But I do think people need to feel that they have got support. It's not being woke or anything like that. They just need to know they can lean on people and say to them, I'm not in the right headspace.
So what was the what was I mean, clearly you were dealing with this for a long time, and I'm so sorry to hear about losing your son. You have told us that before, and I know that that's still something you think about. How can you think about it now without being traumatised, or is that something that you can't still? I mean, how are you dealing with it now?
I'm clenching my hands now. Every day I have to get up and say, come on, today's going to be a good day. And I just put myself in a positive situation. But that's how I deal with it. But there are other people out there that don't have people to lean on. I've got an amazing family. Sadly, yesterday we had to put our cat to sleep, who was 18 years old. That really
I'm so sorry to hear that. Go on.
Oh, no, well, you've seen Badger, but me and David's still serving, you know, we took the day off because things affect you.
Yes.
But we had each other. But I think there's a lot of people in the military, and then when they leave the military, there's always a reason why people join the military. But when they leave the military, if they don't have that support mechanism, which is what Combat Stress Lady was just saying, it's a worry. You need to have some sort of support. So you've got We Served, Combat Stress. There's loads of charities, but you need that support.
So what can we do? I would be useless in the military. I know not nearly enough about it, although I'm learning all the time and I'm always keen to learn. What can people who don't suffer from PTSD do to help someone who is has been or is in the military, or alternatively someone just who's a civilian who's dealing with PTSD? What are the signs we can look at, and how can we help as people who don't suffer from it to help people like you, Debbie?
Can I be honest with you? You wouldn't be useless in the military. The military needs good people with heart, and people that want to be part of a team. And you know, we come in all strengths, different sizes, the whole shebang.
I just don't think I'd pass basic training, Debbie, to be brutally frank.
Okay, well, maybe not now. Maybe I don't think I would either. So it's fine.
Okay.
When you hit 40 and above, maybe no, I'm that way. But you know, being in the military or being in civilian life, it's just knowing your friends, knowing people you work with, and just seeing the way they change, and just what's wrong with saying to someone, "Are you all right?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and just reaching out to them, saying, "Talk to me, scream at me." This is the thing in Forces Equine. We always say to them, if you want to scream at me, shout at me, cry, be angry, whatever, just pick up the phone. It's as long as they know someone is there for them. That is the first thing. If it's really bad, then it's trying to get that person to go and talk to somebody professionally. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that's always hard because humans don't like to show weakness, especially military people.
Really, really interesting thoughts there. Listen, thank you very much. And just before you go, tell us how Forces Equine helps people in lots of different ways, but horses are incredibly intuitive and can tell and help people when they've been through trauma, can't they?
Well, I had a great conversation with one of the guys from We Serve today, and we're going to do something together because it's all about pheromones. So even if you're not a horsey person, going and spending time with horses and just being involved with them, you walk away going, I feel good about myself, because all they want to do is please. So yes, we've got our grassroots up to our elitist, but we also do stuff behind the scenes just to make people feel better about themselves. And we did our show 3 weeks ago, and I had 3 big players all burst into tears because they were just having a rubbish week. But we're all there to support them because we understand. And I think as long as you've got people that can go, not be condescending and go, I understand, but actually do, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you said, you got through your drink problem, but people supported you. As long as you've got people that understand, they'll get you through it.
And you can ask for help, certainly. Combat Stress is combatstress.org.uk. Tell us about Forces Equine. What's your web address?
forcesequine.com.
Great stuff. Thank you, Debbie. Much appreciated. And I must declare that I know Debbie, and Debbie indeed did my own website, petercardwell.com, and she was absolutely brilliant. So just for, if there's any conflict of interest or any issue there, I just wanted to be absolutely clear on that. Debbie's a great person. Many, many strings to her bow. Knows so many different things and so many different people. She's been on the show a few times, and she speaks so honestly and just reasonably, just with great common sense. She's a real hero of mine, actually, to be brutally honest.